I'm letting y'all know now this video is rated TV-MALS and contains strong language and is intended for mature audiences.
Please, folks, please don't kill me.
Alright, you kids get to bed, I get the storybook.
Bill Feezzyy's worst nightmare. The skyline of Atlanta shimmered like a field of diamonds beneath the warm spring night. 5 years, 5 whole years since Bill Feezzyy had walked out of a Georgia state prison carrying nothing but a garbage bag full of clothes, a cheap pair of prison-issued boots, and a determination to never come back. Now he sat inside Polaris, one of the fanciest restaurants in the city, surrounded by family, friends, YouTubers, old supporters, and people who vowed to help him survive after his release. The rotating restaurant slowly turned above downtown Atlanta while laughter echoed around the table. Bill leaned back in his chair, smiling as his younger cousin held up a phone recording him. 5 years free! His cousin Quantro yelled. Everyone clapped. Bill raised his glass of Don Julio. To freedom, he said. To freedom! The table shouted back. The gold chains around Bill's neck glittered beneath the dim lights. His beard was lined perfectly. Designer shoes from Lenox Square Mall. An expensive watch. His life looked nothing like it once had, 5 years prior. And that was exactly how he wanted it. A half a decade earlier, he'd been sleeping beside murderers, gang members, addicts, and mentally broken men inside a concrete cage. Now, he was a successful YouTuber with millions of views, brand deals, podcast interviews, and dripping merchandise. People stopped him in public asking for pictures. Sometimes he still couldn't believe it. His mama wiped tears from her eyes while staring at him from across the table. I'm proud of you, son, she said softly. Bill smiled. Love you, mama. The night carried on with endless food and drinks. Steaks arrived sizzling on hot plates. Lobster tails dripping with butter, expensive desserts, bottle after bottle of top-shelf liquors. By midnight, the celebration finally began slowing down as the restaurant closed at 1. People hugged a goodbye in the parking deck beneath the restaurant. Bill felt a nice buzz going, but was happy. Not sloppy drunk, buzzing, loose, carefree, the kind of feeling that makes bad ideas sound reasonable. That's when he heard a familiar voice behind him. See, Bill? Feezzyy turned and looked at a tall, skinny, heavily tattooed, dark-skinned man who stood near the elevator wearing a black hoodie and jeans. What up, though, Trell? The man nodded awkwardly. Trell had once been Bill's bunkmate during the beginning of his 9-year prison sentence years ago. They'd shared soups, workout routines, and survival stories inside a dorm full of predators and thieves for 9 months. Bill hadn't seen him since his release. Yo ass made it out, I see. Bill said, grinning. Yeah, they finally let a nigga out a month ago, Trell said. Them crackers sat me off twice, but blessed me on that 3rd parole date. Bill gave him a quick fist bump. Good to see you alive, my boy. Same to you, my G. Trell glanced around nervously before speaking again. Bruh, you think you could give me a ride? I was downtown trying to see if I could find my dad, but that nigga ghost, then I saw your ass at this restaurant, so I came over to holler. Bill hesitated immediately. He didn't give rides, especially not to niggas that done been to prison. Especially not at night, and especially not after drinking. His friends knew that rule. But Trell looked rough, tired, embarrassed. I ain't got enough for Uber, Trell admitted. Or Waymo. I'm staying with my auntie for now. Bill looked toward his own old bunkmate. They were heading the opposite direction from where Trell needed to go, which was way down on Jonesboro South. Everything in Bill's mind told him to say no. But the Don Julio softened his instincts.
I got you, folks. Let's go.
See, Bill, you always been a real one, Trell said gratefully.
Can you please like and subscribe to the channel? I'll suck you.
They climbed into Bill's black BMW X7 truck. As the city lights blurred past the windshield, Trell talked nonstop about prison politics, parole conditions, and how much Atlanta had changed in the 18 years since he'd been gone. Bill half listened while gripping the wheel. The alcohol buzz was beginning to fade into exhaustion. "What side you staying on, folks?" Bill asked. Trell named the neighborhood his aunt lived in, and it caused Bill to frown instantly. "Nigga, that's the trenches!" Trell laughed nervously. "It ain't that bad." Bill didn't answer. The deeper they drove into the hood, the more uneasy he became. Boarded houses, bandos or trap houses, groups of men standing on corners, sirens in the distance, street lights barely working. Bill's stomach tightened. He hated being in areas like this now, especially late at night like it was, not because he thought he was better than anyone, but because prison had taught him one brutal truth. Trouble loved familiar territory. Bill glanced at Trell. "You clean, right?" Trell looked offended. "Bruh, yes. I just got out 29 days ago, damn. No guns, no drugs. I said I'm clean, see, Bill." Bill nodded slowly, though something still bothered him. 6 houses away from Trell's destination, headlights suddenly appeared behind them. Blue lights exploded across the BMW's mirrors. Bill cursed immediately. "Fuck, I knew it." An Atlanta PD cruiser pulled them over. Bill's heart started hammering, even though he was legally driving. Even though he had nothing illegal in the car, fear from prison never really leaves a man. The first officer approached cautiously. "License and registration." Bill handed them over calmly. "You know why I stopped you?" "No, sir. You rolled through that stop sign back there." Bill nodded and wanted to blurt out that he rolled through the sign because he was trying to hurry and drop this nigga off so he could get the hell from over on this side of town. The officer leaned slightly closer to the window. "You been drinking tonight, sir?" Bill's chest tightened. "A little earlier at dinner." The officer sniffed again. "Ah! Step out the vehicle." Trell muttered under his breath. Bill slowly exited. Within minutes, another patrol car arrived. Backup. Now both men stood beside the road while officers questioned them separately. One officer administered a breathalyzer after Bill agreed to take it. He fidgeted and prayed silently that he was below the limit. The machine beeped. .07. Relief flooded through him instantly. The legal limit in Georgia was .08. "Thank God I ain't drank that second glass of liquor," he said to himself. The officer began putting the device back in. "It's pouch. You're under the limit." Bill almost laughed from relief. Thank God. He started walking toward his BMW. Then everything changed. "Wait a minute," the backup officer shouted from inside the car. Bill froze. The officer emerged, holding a black and silver semi-automatic pistol. In his other hand was a thick plastic bag stuffed with a powdery substance. Even from a distance, Bill recognized what police would assume it was: fentanyl. "Oh my God," Bill whispered. The first officer immediately grabbed handcuffs. "Both of y'all turn around." Bill's jaw dropped. "That ain't mine, officer." The officer ignored him. Trell looked terrified. Bill stared at him furiously. "It ain't mine either." His old friend lied to 12 as both were handcuffed. "Claim your shit, my nigga," Feezzyy said frustratingly. "I swear to God, that shit ain't mine, officer." Bill's pulse exploded with panic as the cold steel cuffs dug into his wrists as he was placed in the back of one of the Dodge Charger cop cars. "Please listen to me, officer." The officer shoved him toward the cruiser. "As convicted felons, both of y'all are being charged until ownership is established." Bill felt like reality had cracked his skull straight open. This couldn't be happening. Not after 5 years, not after changing his life, not after everything he fought through. Inside the police car, Bill turned toward the other Charger parked next to his. Trell was in the back seat looking straight ahead as if trying to ignore his old bunkmate. You dirty ass nigga. Bill lost his composure. Trell continued staring forward silently. That silence told Bill everything. The next 7 months became a blur of court dates, county jail violence, legal fees, stress, and despair. The prosecution refused to separate the charges. Possession of an illegal substance with intent to distribute and a firearm by a convicted felon, which was a mandatory 5 years in prison in the state of Georgia. The state pushed aggressively because both men had criminal histories. Bill spent every dime he'd made off of YouTube fighting the case. His video uploads stopped. Views vanished. Sponsors disappeared. Fans still supported him, though, but there wasn't anything the Feezzyy family could do to help him. Then sentencing day arrived. The courtroom felt ice cold. The judge reviewed their records with visible disgust. Both defendants are repeat felons, the judge says sharply. The court takes firearm and narcotics offenses extremely seriously. Bill stood trembling beside his attorney. Your Honor, his lawyer argued, Mr. Bennett has been rehabilitated for years. He's a business owner. The judge interrupted him. 20 years. Bill stopped breathing. The room spun. 20 years for each defendant. Bill's brothers and mama busted into tears behind him. Bill felt his knees weaken. A whole dub for some shit he ain't even do. That's crazy. 62 days later, the transport bus ride to Jackson felt like a funeral procession. Bill stared silently through scratched windows while chains rattled around his wrists and ankles. Every mile deeper into rural Georgia felt like his old life swallowing him whole again. It was easier to do 9 years back when he was 18 years old because at that age it was half adventurous and half easy because he'd still be young when he got out. But now he was in his 30s, and his mind state was totally different from that 18-year-old C. Bill's. After going through hell in Jackson for 6 weeks, he finally was told to pack it up. All of y'all are going to Smith State Prison, an officer announced. Several inmates in Bill's group of inmates who were told to pack up their stuff reacted immediately. One muttered a prayer. Another laughed nervously. Smith State Prison had a reputation. Violence, stabbings, extortion, gang wars, predators. Bill's stomach dropped after the 2-hour ride to Glenville, Georgia, which was where the hellhole was at, and things became even worse after intake. An older inmate recognized Bill instantly from when he was there on his first bid. That's that boy, Feezzyy, whisper spread quickly through the dorms. Some inmates respected him because of his YouTube fame. Others hated him instantly for it. Then Bill heard a name that made his blood run cold. Ghost, one of the new prison leaders for the Gangster Disciples. Bill knew him from years ago, and Ghost hated him. Years earlier, Bill had been kicked out of the gang for insubordination about 2 years before his release. At the time, the violations seemed minor. Now prison politics had changed. Leadership had become ruthless. And Ghost believed Bill had embarrassed the organization by leaving gang life behind and becoming successful as someone who talked against the gang life. The harassment started immediately. Missing items out of his locker box, threats, stolen property, wine staring at him. Bill tried staying respectful, tried avoiding problems, but Ghost wanted humiliation. One night during count time, Ghost approached Bill surrounded by a few of his GD members. See, Bill, you was out there preaching on YouTube, but now you back in here with us? Ghost said coldly. Bill remained calm. I'm just trying to do my time, bruh. See, Bill muttered, trying to keep his back against the wall nearest him. Ghost smiled. That's the problem. After that encounter, weeks passed. The torment intensified. Bill stopped sleeping properly. Every noise at night jolted him awake. Every shadow looked dangerous. Then came the day it popped. One rainy night, the dorm light suddenly cut off during the middle of the night. Bill opened his eyes to figures surrounding his bottom bunk. His cell door was wide open. Before he could react, hands grabbed him violently. Strips of threaded bed sheets wrapped around his wrists and ankles. Someone kicked him directly in the mouth, causing him to accidentally bite his tongue and draw a mouthful of blood and mucus. Pain exploded through his skull as if he had just taken a baseball bat blow to his head. "Hold that fuck nigga still, bruh," one of the YNs said as he geared up to kick Feezzyy square in his face. Bill squirmed hard, trying to loosen the bedsheet handcuffs, but they were tied too tight. Another punch landed against his nose, and all he saw was stars and white lights, coupled with intense pain from the blow fracturing it in 2 places. Then another to his kidneys. Boot slammed into his ribs. Ghost's voice emerged from the darkness. "You should have stayed humble." Bill struggled desperately, but too many hands held him down. A sharpened knife glimmered beneath dim prison cell lights. Then another shank, a gold rod, then another, which was a mini machete. Bill's breathing became hysterical. "No, please, folks." A blade pressed against his lips. "Cut that fuck nigga's tongue out. He ain't bounced, but he still want to say folks." Another touched his cheek. Ghost crouched beside him, smiling. "Tonight, yo, YouTube days is over." The gangsters laughed cruelly. Bill cried out as fists smashed into his face again and again, breaking his already broke nose in 3 more places. Blood poured down his neck, mouth and nose like running faucet water. The bangers raised into the air, ready to slice and plunge into Bill's body, but something happened. Bill exploded awake, screaming. He sat upright, gasping violently. Cold sweat soaked his satin pajamas his brother Charlie Global gave him from his website, Hangout, where his chest heaved uncontrollably. The room was silent, dark, safe, his own bedroom out in the free world and not some damp-ass prison cell. Morning sunlight peeked through the blinds. Bill stared around in confusion as he got up and exited his bedroom. The couch, television, kitchen, freedom, no chain gang, no Smith State Prison, no ghost, no pussy-ass trail not claiming his fi. No arrest. His breathing slowly steadied as realization hit him. It had all been a nightmare. Every second. Bill grabbed his face. With trembling hands, tears filled his eyes. The celebration, the traffic stop, the gun, the fentanyl, clear tea, the sentence, the prison torture. None of it had happened. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from his mom, Dukes. "Proud of you last night. Love you, Chris." Bill looked down at the empty Don Julio bottle near the couch. Then he remembered. He had come home drunk after the anniversary dinner and passed out fully clothed on his bed. That nightmare had felt so real he could still feel the pain in his nose and ribs. Bill slowly stood up and walked toward the bathroom mirror. He stared at himself for a long moment. Free. Actually free. 5 years free. One bad decision could destroy everything. One ride, one wrong person, one moment of lower judgment. That's all it would take. Bill turned on the sink and splashed cold water across his face. Then he picked up the Don Julio bottle from the table. He stared at it silently. Finally, he walked to the trash can and dropped it inside. "I ain't never drinking again," he whispered. Outside, the Douglasville sun rose over the suburb while Bill stood in the quiet safety of his apartment, grateful that his worst nightmare had stayed exactly where it belonged. A fucking nightmare.
Back in the chain gang, them steppers might tear.
Bill Feezzy's worst nightmare.
Them gangsters finna unalive you.
Bill Feezzy's worst nightmare.
Back in the chain gang, them steppers might tear.
Bill Feezzy's worst nightmare.
Them gangsters finna unalive you. See, Bill got drunk and gave his old boy a ride. And Atlanta PD found drugs and gun inside. Nobody wanna claim, so they both went down. They was 400 north inside of Wright Street bound.
Bill Feezzy's worst nightmare.
Back in the chain gang, them steppers might pair.
Bill Feezzy's worst nightmare.
Them gangsters finna